Hello, my favorite people in the whole world. Thank you for joining me for shared reading today. Our shared reading goal is I can make personal connections to stories. Making personal connections to stories can help us to understand our characters and our problems and solutions even better while we read. Today's shared reading text is Nothing in the Mailbox by Carolyn Ford. And as we read today, we are going to make connections between the story and our own lives. To do this, we'll use the sentence frame, this reminds me of. So what does the story remind you of in your own life? Nothing in the Mailbox by Carolyn Ford. Nothing in the mailbox. The mailbox was always full. But there was never, ever anything for me. This reminds me of when I check my mail at home, and I always hope that there's going to be something fun to look at, but it's usually just bills or advertisements or junk mail. So I know how he feels, that he checks his mail and he wants to find a letter for him, but there's nothing good in there. What does this remind you of? One day, I sat down and wrote a letter to my grandma. I wrote to my uncle. I wrote to my cousin. This reminds me of when I sat down and wrote my letters to all of you guys. It also reminds me of what we've been learning in writing class about different reasons to send letters. Maybe he sent an invitation to his cousin. Maybe he sent a thank you note to his grandma. I'm making connections between this story and my writing class. Let's keep reading. I wrote to my friend. I even wrote to the President of the United States. I wrote letters to almost everyone I knew. And then I mailed them. This reminds me of when I brought all of your letters to the big blue mailbox at the end of my block. We have a mailbox that looks just like this in our neighborhood, and anytime I want to mail a letter, I have to put a stamp on the corner and walk it to my big blue box that looks just like this one, and then I put it in the mail. So that's what this reminds me of. Do you have a mailbox like this in your neighborhood? Now, there is always something in the mailbox for me. This reminds me of how I was hopeful that when you guys checked your mail that you would find that letter for me. And there's another piece of mail coming your way this week too. I wonder if you've gotten it or not yet. So it reminds me of that as well. So there are many different connections that I can make between this book and my own life, from things that I've done to things that I'm learning about to things that I imagine can happen. And now it's your turn. Your shared reading send-off today is to make connections between what you read in your books and what you have experienced in your life. Don't forget to do your seesaw assignment. I can't wait to see your connections. Goodbye.